All righty. Everybody, this is Dr. John Maher. I'm the facilitator for the Long Island Chiropractic Brothers. Our speaker is Dr. John Maher. He is a diplomate and an LCP. He just did his diplomate. And this is something that I saw him do at New Beginnings. And I said, he's got to share this with the Band of Brothers. So, Dr. Maher, floor is yours, baby. Take it away, babe.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Okay. Keeping Strong Island strong, guarding the sacred trust, and allowing me to participate and share with you guys is just an honor, and I thank you for it. So, I'm going to talk about Dee Dee Palmer tonight. It's going to be, not too long. Keep it short and sweet, best I can. Once I get started, you never know, right? So, there's some pictures that we haven't really seen before. Dee Dee and sitting with Harvey Lillard there hanging out, and our Strong Island Chiropractic Band of Brothers. Now, this is Ernie Landy's favorite thing, and I read it every day because it's such an important thing. Dispossessed of its philosophy, chiropractic is dispossessed of its uniqueness and perhaps its future. Um, as a group of people who are interested in the chiropractic, there can be nothing more important than protecting our roots. And that's why we have the Band of Brothers, right? This is why we need to band together and stay strong. I think movements like this really guard the sacred trust every day and remind us that we need to keep going and to stick together. It's the most important thing that we can do as a profession, and it's just so important. And I think honestly, the small groups like this together in the unity that we need for our future and protect it, I think it's the most important thing we got going on. So thank you guys for showing up and hanging. Um, just some cool pictures that we can share along the way. That table is at Palmer. That's actual table. And there's Harvey and Dee Dee hanging. So we're going to go over a little bit about tonight. So Dee Dee Palmer, in case you didn't know, was a teacher before he was a chiropractor. And some of the things he said in his journals, I'm going to share with you because I think they're probably the most important to understand his mindset going forward. We proceed from known to unknown. I've heard Pasquale say this a million times, tack to what they know and then proceed to expand out. So you have like a grounding point that you can come together and knowing. And I think that's a really important point because, if they have nothing to tack chiropractic to in their understanding, then they can't figure out, where to go forward. We never tell a child what he or she can discover for themselves. Never tell people how to think. You always want to teach people how to think, not tell them what to think. And then most importantly, we want to simplify all subjects for the young. Einstein said a similar thing: simplify, don't mystify. Those are all important stuff to keep it simple, silly, right? Going forward. And that's Dee Dee's mindset. So that's a really important thing to remember because he didn't want to make it so crazy. He wanted to make it simple. So it's really important. Simplify all the subjects for the young. That's Galen Price over there teaching BC to TC, just keeping it simple, right? Brain cell to tissue cell, just important, easy, historical stuff. Some cool pictures of Dee Dee. And of course, he would obviously like the Band of Brothers in Long Island. So thumbs up to you guys. Thank you. Okay, now Dee Dee was the one that went to jail, not Stevenson, not BJ. None of those guys went to jail, but Dee Dee actually got arrested for practicing medicine without a license, and he actually went to Davenport jail. Um, that lock that you see on this one is actually at Palmer School. They have it in the archives, and they have it hanging on the wall actually in the Palmer Alumni Auditorium. There, it's pretty neat. Um, so in 1906, Dee Dee is serving his 23 days of a 105-day sentence. And BJ, everybody says, oh, Dee Dee and BJ didn't get together. He loved his father enough to cough up $350 and get him out of jail. So he didn't let him rot in there. And Dee Dee was kind of pissed about, him getting let out. So Dee Dee wanted to go there because he was a convict of his convictions, and he wanted to serve the 105 days because he wanted to stand as a pillar in the profession and his beliefs. So our profession was actually founded on a question. So the question that he asked himself and what possessed him to go forward was that uppermost in my mind, in my search for the cause of disease, I desired to know. I desired to know one why one person was ailing and his associate eating at the same table, working at the same shop, at the same bench. Why not? Why was he not sick? And the difference was, what was the difference between the two people? And that's what caused him to start researching. And he started asking that question at a much younger age, and then he said it was answered September of 1895. So chiropractic, he said, came to this world as soon as it was ready to receive it. Some of the basic tenets of chiropractic is not new, but he organized it into a profession. He's not the first person to move the bones. That's been going on for thousands of years. But the reason and the way and the intent was what made chiropractic organized. And he said it came as an educator. He had a big, big, big vision. So I ask you guys, are we on the right ladder? So Dee said, why remain satisfied with a meager knowledge of the science and art and philosophy of chiropractic? Why not advance onward and upward towards perfection? Why remain on the lower rounds? Why not exert yourself and become eminent in your line of work instead of kicking down the ladder upon which others already are climbing? When Dee was there, and we'll go over what he was thinking and what his vision was, but he wanted it separate and distinct. And that's the most important part of this quote. He didn't want to be on somebody else's ladder. He wanted to climb to the top. And as you know, in the two ladders here, chiropractic goes much higher. And we'll talk about it a little bit, but we shouldn't be kicking down the ladder upon which others are climbing. We don't need to. We just need to create a bigger one, a better one. And that's what he was hoping. He had a big vision for chiropractic. It wasn't minimized. It was huge. And that's why it took him from 1895 to 1910 to really publish his stuff. BJ wanted him to be the first one, so he put that book together in 1906 and published it before everybody else did because he wanted it published and be the first chiropractic book. But DD said, no, no, no. I have stuff that I have to put in there that he wasn't ready to publish yet. But BJ pushed him to it. He published it, and that was great because he was the first one to get it out. But in 1910, DD published his own book in Oregon. It wasn't even at Palmer, even though Palmer had its own printery. So the philosophy, he was thinking really big. That's the actual reproduction of the Ryan building, and that's him and Harvey Lillard hanging out there. He said the philosophy will make the junction between the physical and the spiritual comprehensive. It will advance mankind mentally, physically, and spiritually. He was talking on all planes of improving our existence as people. And his vision was really big. I mean, that's why, I can't believe we let go some of his stuff. But life is the result of a combination of intellectual spirit and unintellectual matter. The organization of the human being is just an incredible experience. And he recognized this long before most people did. Now, this is kind of cool because he said, I hold it to be self-evident that all men and women have required the efficiency and knowledge and skill to remove the nerve tension which prevents physical, mental, and spiritual development, are engaged in the work of higher order than that required by or performed by the physician. He saw it as an improvement. And that's why he brought it to the world when he could, when he finally understood it. But his vision wasn't small. So what do you think is going to happen to mankind? It will lessen disease, poverty, and crime empty jails, penitentiaries, insane asylums, and assist us to prepare the existence beyond the transition called death. He was thinking that this was going to expand everything, and I think it does. It just we don't talk about this stuff anymore, and I don't understand why. I do, and you guys will later. So how far do you think it can be, Dee Dee? And he said, it will in time do much to relieve the poverty and crime. And he didn't just say that once, he said it many times, for they are largely disease conditions. It will in time empty our jails and penitentiaries. It will give us a conscious connection of that unseen life, which is believed in by all nations. In near future, it shall replace a belief with a comprehensive knowledge. He even understood that it's okay to have a belief system, but we have to have a solid foundation of information. And he didn't want to stand there on belief. And he visioned that this would happen. So his thought process is keeping it simple, right? He said, in every phase of life, vitality and action, man's highest aspirations should be to advance himself and to a higher level to make himself better mentally and physically. That's a big, big vision. It's not just a little thing. I mean, this is mental, physical, spiritual uplifting of mankind. That's an incredible vision. I don't know where we went with that, but he had a global impact to improve man's existence on every level. So let's talk about tone. Tone is the most overlooked thing in chiropractic, and it has cost us so dearly. So tone is the amount of nerve tension that determines health or disease. In health, there's a normal tension known as tone, and normal activity, strength, and excitability of various organs and functions as observed in the state of health. If you notice, he keeps on talking about function. So life is the expression of tone, and in that sentence is the basic principle of chiropractic. Remember, he talked about keeping it simple, right? He didn't say 33 principles, and I'm not saying that 33 principles are bad. They've overlooked the basic principle, and instead of basing chiropractic on tone, which is basically determining health on how the person's functioning, we gave up and started talking about a universal intelligence inside all matter that continually gives it all the properties and actions and thus maintaining it in its existence, which is great, except that we gave this up. And in Stevenson's text, tone is only about muscle tone. It's the only time it's mentioned. It's mentioned 3 times. And they totally threw out this basic principle of chiropractic. So by 1927, our basic principle of chiropractic was not being taught anymore. It was out the window. And if we base on chiropractic about tone, all the people that want reproducibility, all that stuff, it's all reproducible. You can measure function. And if you can measure function, then you can measure tone. And if you can measure tone, then you can have health versus dis-ease. And we're going to talk about the difference between disease and dis-ease in a few minutes. But this is huge because we basically got on the wrong ladder when we started trying to get sick people well. We gave up our basic ability to work on the function of the body and make that our basis of what we do. Instead, we started talking about getting sick people well. We got on the wrong ladder immediately, and we sometimes never get off. And at this point, we're trying to be primary healthcare providers as a profession, and we're not even measuring function and tone and not basing our activities on that. I mean, some of us are because we're still doing instrumentation and all that good stuff that measures function. But somehow we got disconnected from the basic principle of chiropractic. And tone is not being taught in schools any longer. It hasn't been taught there in 100 years. That's insane to me. So tone is foundation. So listen to this one. The basic principle is the foundation. the origin, that from which other principles may proceed and are derived. The science and philosophy of chiropractic is built on tone, but not any longer. And I don't get that. The source of every chiropractic principle, whether it's physiological or pathological, is founded upon tone. That one word means much to a chiropractor who desires to comprehend the basis of chiropractic in its scientific or philosophical phase. We can't give up tone, and we have, and we need to get back because that gives us a place to climb to. If you have optimal function, that's higher than just being healthy. And it takes our ladder right to the top. And if we have optimal function as our goal as a profession, we can measure it, we can prove it, we can reproduce it. Everything's there for those people that to be scientifically matched, and philosophically we can match up with that. And I don't understand how we gave this up. So life is the expression of tone. Tone is expressed in functions by normal activity, elasticity, strength, excitability, various organs as observed in a state of health. Consequently, the cause of disease is any variation of tone, nerves too tense or too slack. So we're going to go into this a little bit deeper, but tone is so foundational and we just don't understand why we walked away from it. So the amount of nerve tension determines health or disease. In health, there is a normal tension known as tone, normal activity, strength, excitability in various organs and functions as observed in the state of health. So when we gave up on tone, we may have given up on the foundation of chiropractic. And that is blowing my mind. And I hope, because things that were in 1910 are not the same as they are now. So when we look at Didi's writings, we have to look from a historical linguistic point. It is concerned with the development of languages through time. That meanings of words are especially liable to change. And the meanings of linguistic forms are constantly changing. And what is our obligation to history? This is really important. It is a part of the historian's business to study the past, not to find the roots of the present in the past. So terminology changes, and it changed big. And that, I think, has the reason why we gave up tone, because it was talking about different stuff that we didn't want to talk about and something that maybe we didn't understand. But there's two things we need to study. The diachronic linguistics is the study of the way language changes through time, and the synchronic linguistics is the study of language at a particular point in time, and we have to do both. So synchronic linguistics, this tonight is really a diachronic linguistic point. And we're going to talk about the synchronic linguistic, studying it in 1910. So presentism, and this is why we have given up tone, presentism is the tendency to interpret past events in terms of modern values and concepts. So here's the error. When you take today's meaning and you apply it to what Didi was talking about in 1910, it makes his teachings irrelevant, being that nobody wants to treat disease. That's not what he was saying. But I'm going to go over why. So presentism is an attitude toward the past dominated by present-day attitudes and experiences. So the presentism has victimized chiropractic. So what is the big deal with that? How did we get so lost? Well, the fallacy of presentism is a complex anachronism. It consists of the unhistorical act of assigning present-day ideas and perspectives to the past. And when we do that, we get lost and makes D.D. Palmer's teachings irrelevant. And that's why not a lot of people talk about him. And they gave all the things to Stevenson and BJ. But really, it's D.D. that had the vision of how big chiropractic can be. So in his opening book in 1910, he funneled down, if you look at the textbook, and it's a funnel down to chiropractic. And then underneath his name, he funneled again down to founded on tone. That wasn't by mistake. He wanted things to point to the important stuff here. It was visually acute. It was sharp what he did. So he funneled it down as two triangles, 2 points, to make 2 points in the opening thing. Chiropractic founded on tone. It's kind of cool that he did that. But, we just look at it and say, eh. So tone is defined in 1910. The fifth understanding of tone, the fifth most
Geez, John,
accepted.
where'd you get that mustache from?
So, in the tone, that state of the body and its organs and parts in which the animal functions are healthy and perform due vigor. It's the definition of tone by Webster. And DD wrote, tone is a term used to denote degree of vigor, tension, activity, strength, excitability, as observed in a state of health, the effect of tonicity. He was talking about this repetitively, basing everything on tone. That's kind of a cool thing with Harvey there, getting adjusted on the original table. So how is tone defined today? Well, guess what? Tone is defined the same way. The state of a living body in any of its organs and parts in which functions are performed with due vigor. It's the same thing, but it's buried, and we've buried tone in our own profession. But it's actually there. You can look it up in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, and it's right there, just the way we like it to be. It's still present, still 100 years later, over 100 years later, it's still there, but it's buried, and we have also buried the same thing. So the cause of disease is any variation of tone. Nerves too tense or too slack. So nerves too tense, in the original meaning of tense, means a struggle or contest, right? But when we look at tension defined in 1913, is the act of straining. It's a state of being strained. It's extreme strain and intense effort to do so. But today, it means an imbalance, often with physiological indication of emotion. That's what tension is now. It really has nothing to do with what we originally talked about. And there's, again, a presentism thing that we can add in. That tension today does not mean what it did in 1913. So he's talking about things being too tense and too slack. In 1913, he meant straining, and today it means imbalanced emotions as a accepted definition. And also, if you look down the second definition, it means stress, sense of stress, that sort of thing. But the most accepted meaning is changed quite a bit. Too slack. Slack is in 1700s, a cessation of flow, like in a current, like in a tide, or a quiet, low interval inactivity in the 1800s. So it's kind of just like a lull. And that's the way it started out. And in 1913, it meant to make less tense, to repress, to cause, to become, to bring it to ease as it goes down and you read it more. But that was 1913. Now today, slack means basically to evade work, right? So if you're a slacker, you're avoiding. But in 1913, it meant too much ease, so it's too slack. It's too much. It was to make less tense. Two different meanings, but that's presentism. So, and we have to, and I think that this is why we lost tone, because tone was addressing disease. Nobody feels comfortable with disease. Disease are conditions resulting either in excess or deficiency of functioning. So if we don't feel comfortable with disease and taking care of it, it's because we didn't understand what DD was talking about. And this is presentism to the max for me. Because to define disease at the time that chiropractic, the number one understanding was lack of ease. Okay, so number two at that time in 1913 was more of a pathological understanding. So it was present, but you got to remember something. As the idea of the germ theory became more active in the world and accepted, the understanding of disease and the definition of it as a society changed from lack of ease, which is what Dee Dee's talking about, to disease, which is pathological. And it remains pathological today. So nobody wants to treat disease, but you know what? If there's lack of ease in the body, then we have less tone, less and irregular function, and it's a problem. So what happened was they stopped teaching tone and they scrapped it. And when they wanted to talk about disease by 1927, they put the hyphen in to anchor it to the original lack of ease. So at Palmer, they stopped teaching. They started teaching, but you got to understand, if you looked up disease today in the dictionary, in the American Heritage Dictionary, I had it laying around. I looked it up. It said, number one, it's pathological condition. So we went from not at ease, state of ease, to not at ease, and that was dis-ease, to now an understanding of pathological. That's why we don't want to talk about DD as much. So right now, if you look down at number 3, it says that it's the lack of ease definition is obsolete. They don't use it anymore. And as a profession, we've actually thrown out tone because of this. And nobody wants to talk about it. And it's really presentism that has destroyed the understanding of the main foundational principle of chiropractic. So presentism has victimized the teachings of D.D. Palmer just because now it's not seen as lack of ease. And they had to actually put the hyphen in at Palmer and started teaching that way and scrap tone. But they also started making sick people well. That's when the Merrick system came up, and they started talking about this nerve goes here and it causes that. And they had the chart goes on the wall with the spine and things going over, and it goes to here and could cause this. If we would just stay on our ladder as a profession, we will be so much more solid to talk about body function and health being determined by how well the body functions and works. And when it's not working properly, when it's too much function or too little function, then the body's in a state of dis-ease. So the cause of disease is the inability of innate to express her abilities. Disease is the lack of coordination between innate and the source of power and its expressions. That's the stuff, right there. So how does disease affect innate? Disease is nothing more nor less than functions performed in either a too great or too little degree if they are performed in a normal or natural amount. As desired by innate, we have health. So what do you mean when you're talking about disease? Disease is meant either an increase or decrease in normal functioning. I'll go through that one. Or a structural change or any organ or part of the body from its normal state. It'd be nice to have our chiropractic main principle reestablished in our profession, because without it, we're in trouble. And you can see how it's ripping everything apart. But when he says functionate, the difference between function and functionate, function means that the role or purpose of something has, right? That's its function, right? But functionate is the active process of carrying out that role. So he's talking about functions being actually working and measuring that stuff instead of just having what its purpose is, but actually watching it process. And that's a big thing. We don't even talk about that anymore. So, what is disease, Needy? He said the students of chiropractic should constantly remember that disease is not a thing, but a condition. It is an abnormal performance of certain morphological alterations in the body, agencies and conditions which the body cannot adapt itself to, sway the capacity of energy above and below normal, introducing functional aberrations and structural alterations known as disease. I like that so much better. Unfortunately, we've lost this. And it's time for us to get on our ladder. It's time for us to climb. If we have to drag the profession up on it by ourselves, then we'll do it. That's why we have a band of brothers, because we all got to stick together and do it the right way. Think of a chiropractor. He said, he understood that pathology definition was second. But he said, think of a chiropractor as substantially conquering disease. That expression sounds allopathic. He knew the difference. One of the principles of chiropractic is that when impingements are removed, vital energy performs functions normally. Why not, as chiropractors, give innate the opportunity to functionate normally instead of trying to conquer disease? He asked the question way back when, in 1910. He wrote it down. We just lost it. Those who expect to put a lifetime in combating disease, fighting the entrance of disease as though it was an enemy, a hostile intent, should not learn chiropractic. It is very difficult to change a medical fighter into a peaceful chiropractor. That's kind of cool, right? I mean, that's an amazing point there. He told you, don't be a chiropractor if you want to fight disease. Don't even try it. And I think that that's awesome. So when we're talking about the two ladders, right? Medicine, they're going to fight disease. They already have somebody doing that, but now you're talking about being on the bottom of that ladder as primary healthcare providers, as a profession, and we're allowing this to occur. What a bunch of crap. But, and I'm sorry for saying that, but it's true. We shouldn't be doing that stuff. So we got to get on the right ladder, go to the right side. There's a optimal function all the way at the top, which is much higher than health. You could talk about eating clean and exercise and great hygiene, mental, physical, and spiritual hygiene, and regular chiropractic care. It brings you to a state of optimal function, and it leads up to that path. But, health is more than just not being sick. And if we're going to be talking about symptoms and disease and trying to get sick people well, we're on the wrong ladder. We got to get over here. We got to talk about dis-ease, keeping people in a own state of ease and optimal function. If we can stay on this ladder, we can climb as high as we want to go as a profession and take it right to the top. Bam. And I think we've lost that a little bit, right? So BJ warned us about this. He said, of all people, medical men know the failures of medicine, being sincere and honest men, seeking to help mankind. They have turned their eyes into the fundamentals that we possess. They have not gone to the completeness of our realities. They are skirting on the edges. And given time, they too will see what we have. What some of our people are discarding and denting while we threw it right in the toilet and flushed it. Given time, they will get back to the issues that prove themselves, and eventually they will have what we in part are losing and discarding. What is right now? Medicine. You know what they're getting into? Guess what? Functional medicine. They're on our ladder. They're climbing to the top because they know what we have is important, and they're trying to take it. And I, as a professional person, do not want that to happen. But we don't even know it's happening when a lot of our profession wants to stay on the bottom ladder on the left side and be primary healthcare providers into a portal that's dysfunctional at best and is very little based on health. They want to go higher. They want to get to what causes the problem. They want to go into functional medicine. Well, you know what? That's our ladder. We need the optimal function. We need to be in the supreme state of existence. We should own that as a profession. If we don't grab it now, it's out the window. And we gave up tone a long time ago, and that's the basis of chiropractic, and we tossed it. And now they're picking it up. We discarded it, and they're picking it up, and they're going to run with it right up our ladder, and we're going to be right behind them. And maybe that's a good thing, because if eventually all the chiropractors understand that functional medicine is the way to go, well, then they'll understand that that was chiropractic in the first place, and we just let it go. So maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Things happen. But all I know is we got to stay separate and distinct. We have to keep our tone. We have to reestablish that in the chiropractic principles. It's not 33 principles. It's one tone. That's it. I don't disregard the 33 principles because they're a really great way to scientifically understand. They call it the basic science, and that's wonderful if you want to go through that if you need it. The people don't need the science. The people need the philosophy. And chiropractic came to people as an educator to change the world, to lift mankind, of spiritual, physical, mental, to a higher capacity of living, closer to optimal function. That's where we're supposed to be at, not at the bottom rung trying to be primary healthcare people opening up into a system that absolutely stinks. But to go out and do it. So Dee Dee said, you know what? Health is normal function. Normal function is normal tone. Normal tone is normal innervation. Normal innervation is the expression of innate intelligence. That's an acceptable existence. Health is the result of functions performed in normal manner in the usual amount. When physical and mental intelligences and so direct innervations along the pathways without obstruction, we have health. We can measure this stuff. We can reproduce this stuff. We can show the world that chiropractic, based on tone, is about better body function. We need to get chiropractic helps put the fun back in function, right? Why not? Let's do that. Why don't we grab that and run with it? Why do we have to do that other stuff? Disease is any departure from the state of health. The three things he said was thoughts, traumas, toxins. He said traumatic, toxic, and autosuggestive. Thoughts, traumas, toxins. Boom, that's it. Simple. Keep it simple. Talk about vertebral subluxation for just a couple minutes, then we're going to close it up. Vertebral subluxation is a mechanical interference of nerve supply. Subluxation's pressure holds back the organs, tissues from vitalizing currents. Loves this stuff. What happens when it's subluxated vertebrae? A subluxated vertebrae does not shut off the transmission of power, does not disorganize functional organic action. A subluxated vertebrae may press against nerve, causing it to be irritated, more tense, and contracted, thereby changing functional activity. Functional. Functions are not disorganized, broken, thrown into disorder, or destroyed. Functions are increased or decreased because of the pressure. Defined, simple, easy to accept, easy to prove, easy to see, and easy to exist in. Not 33 complicated things. So diseases. He said, hey, Dee Dee, do chiropractors adjust or treat disease? He answered this. Diseases are treated by a great many remedies, but I have never known chiropractic used for such a purpose. You can treat disease or its symptoms, but disease or symptoms cannot be adjusted. If we stop treating disease and get back to function, we'll exist in a place that not a lot of people have seen and not a lot of people understand, but we need to get back to climbing the ladder. He asked us to do that, and we need to. So basically, vertebrae misalignment, it's messing up functioning. And when it messes up the functioning, messes up the tonicity, that to have health, we must Pressure must be removed from the nerves, thereby allowing innate to perform its functions in a normal manner. And you can measure the performance of the functions, and you can prove that it actually exists. And we don't have to worry about all these people that are naysayers in our profession, because you can do instrumentation in your office. Very simple. Is it better after we make a chiropractic move and let innate make the adjustment? It is. And we can prove it. And if it's not right, it's not right time, then the adjustment didn't happen. We don't even do the adjustment. Innate does. It's all golden. We're ready to rock. It's great. So listen, we have this thing, and this is where presentism is so important, because we can talk about this now, Gary. Universal. This group called the International Chiropractic Education Collaborative. This is presentism at its finest, because they didn't understand what DD was talking about. So now we've got it so subluxated as a profession that the teaching of the vertebral subluxation, this is their statement, the teaching of the vertebral subluxation complex as a vitalistic construct that claims that it is the cause of disease is unsupported by evidence. Its inclusion in modern chiropractic curriculum in anything other than a historical context, therefore inappropriate and unnecessary. So right now, we have CCE schools. There's two of them on here, CMCC and University of Bridgeport. I'm upstate New York, about an hour north of New York City. I'm surrounded by University of Bridgeport people. And they weren't even taught vertebral subluxation, which means they weren't talking tone, they weren't talking innate, they weren't talking any of that stuff. They have no idea what you're talking about and have no idea. And it's so difficult that every time somebody comes in from another office, I have to sit down and help them adjust their understanding of chiropractic, because we as a profession have allowed this to occur. And I didn't mind when all these other schools were outside the United States, but now we got CCE approved schools not teaching vertebral subluxation. So now we have graduates who spend more time detecting and trying to correct disease and being tested on it on a regular basis, and less time trying to detect vertebral subluxation and calling themselves chiropractic education and chiropractic schools. It blows my mind. If we don't go back and we don't start climbing our ladder and get on the right path as a profession, we're doomed. So listen, I'm done for tonight. Thank you guys for having me around. My buddy Didi and my other friend there is part of your regular group. We hang and we're good. So listen, thank you guys for everything. I appreciate your time, appreciate your just attention, and let me ramble for like 45 minutes. I hope at the
John,
very
this was
least.
so important.
Yeah,
Two
thank you.
things I want to bring up.
Go ahead.
I recognized this a long time ago, because in a talk that I did many years ago, I said that chiropractic needs to define its definitions, because
Mhm.
the word strike means something different to a union worker versus a baseball player versus
Oh
a
yeah,
bowler. And
100%.
the lack of attention we've paid to our language and our definitions is ridiculous. Um, I'm always amazed, because I've read a lot of green books, and I can't believe how many people have not read Deeding. Uh, the guy was an absolute genius. When you read his stuff, this was not a normal person. He was really a very, very superior mind.
Mhm.
The interesting part I find is that, we have the problem we have with the whole thing at CCE is that the meta competencies are designed to graduate a primary care provider. So
100%.
the schools are basically made the mistake, but that's because they followed the CCE, and we have history to thank for that. Um, the idea is they're simple, that the profession has to get back to our history. The big thing that comes out of it is that most of the people that I've talked to who disregard the philosophy, or they say it should be taught as a historical concept, those particular people have never studied or read the philosophy. They've never read or studied DD or any of the other things. Um, I'm a member of the Chiropractic Institute with Simon Senzon.
There you go.
And the
Great.
thing that really that blew my mind was uh, he basically came across a first and second edition of Stevenson's paper, work, right? Um, Craven, by 1936, had changed the simple idea of foreruns.
Mhm.
Prior to Craven's, where he changed it, uh, the energy that the body took in was not from universal, it was from everything, the water, the food, the oxygen. And then Craven basically said no, and he changed it. It came only from universal intelligence.
Yeah.
So the original teaching was something different.
Yeah.
But
Tremendous.
without studying the history, we lose a lot of things. Simon just had, it was a restored video, probably circa 1978, 1981, a Dr. Homer York, who graduated someplace in the 40s. He was one of the biggest practitioners in California, went to school with BJ as his teacher, had personal issues with uh, David Palmer. Um, it's one of the most rich history interviews I've ever seen. And I'm uh, trying to convince Simon to put that out on YouTube. It should, it's fine that's in the institute, but he has to make more of it more available to people because it's one of the most richest interviews I've seen. And this particular talk that you've done, this is going to go up on YouTube because this has to be shared with more and more chiropractors. This was
Thank you.
absolutely golden. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to make a comment? Ask any questions? Please
Johnny,
unmute yourself.
Yeah, buddy.
John, brother, awesome job. Yeah, it
Thanks,
was,
Gary.
just absolutely, just perfect. Absolutely
Thank you.
perfect. The, for those of us who were blessed to have known Pasquale, Sarasoli got to learn of the importance of D. D. Palmer and
Yeah.
and his wisdom. And you brought up some great points, and it's so telling that the profession has lost its way, and really the schools have, of course, and not they've not been teaching tone, and it's something that I know you and I have talked about it. We talk every day about it, but if you had the opportunity to break it down for um, not just the I guess for the public, what would be the
Yeah.
most important thing for you to want to get across to the layperson, to the patient, of what chiropractic is in regards to tone? How do you mesh that together in
Oh,
your
all right.
explanation?
I do that in the office. I start out with, you're a sperm and an egg. And as an adult, you're 100 trillion cells. And through the miracle of life, your body progresses. And about the 13th day of your embryonic development, your first system comes online, which is your brain and spinal cord. And its job is to control every function in every cell. And we know that's true because when the brain shuts off, all the other systems have all the parts they need to work, and they don't because they have no instruction from the brain cell to tissue cell. It's no longer there. So your body's based on how well it can function. And any interference on the communication between brain cell and tissue cell greatly affects your body's ability to coordinate and function in life. And as a matter of fact, that communication is so important. You can't live without it. And you just base it like that. And as far as me telling them about tone, I don't have to because they understand the function part of it. So I mentioned tone to them. Keeping your body tone is so important. And that's an overall tone. It's your health, it's your well-being. And if you don't have that, then you go from normal function real quick to malfunction. And when you do that, you can stay there. That's not being healthy. And then I tell them, I say, chiropractic is your tool to do whatever you want with. But I'm going to tell you, the more you use it, the healthier you are, the better off you are, and the more your body's going to function at a higher level and closer to an optimal state, which I think is the way you'd want to live. But that's up to you because it's yours. It's not mine. I'm just kind of like UPS, FedEx. You call me whatever you want. But chiropractic is yours. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you. So I gave it to you. And now it's yours to use as you would like. And I hope that you use it to function at the highest level possible on a regular basis. It's the best way to go. The more you use the tool, the easier your life is. And that's the way I leave it. That's it. I don't know. Right or wrong. That works.
Excellent response. Excellent
Love it.
response.
Beautiful. Thank
Anybody
you.
else? Anybody else have a question?
I'd like to say
Some.
something. John, I particularly appreciate your presentation tonight. Just so right on. And you can tell by this beard, I'm the one who does the DD impersonations.
Yep.
And there are times I'll share this with this group that I am totally the conduit, and what comes through me reflects what you're saying here tonight. I will prepare something, and then what comes through me is totally different. And I feel Dee Dee's presence and the importance of getting the word out. I particularly appreciated for the first time actually seeing a color photo of Dee Dee, or I don't know if that was enhanced, because it showed his blue eyes.
I thought that was you, Rick.
What's that?
I thought that was you, Rick.
And there's a little something that we've noticed that happens when I invite Dee Dee to speak through me, and we've got some pictures of it. My brown eyes literally turn blue.
That happened at the last New Beginnings.
That's right. That's right.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's cool. It's freaky. But I know the presence is there, and that's like an indication now to me. So it was nice to see a photo where it was actually capturing those blue eyes. And so I appreciate so much what you said tonight. And I have to tell you from my experience of sitting and receiving Dee Dee, he would so appreciate what you're saying. And it is so right on with what he wants to speak, especially the concept of tone. Thank you. Thank you tonight.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to say, Ed, my 2 cents. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate this. I saw you in New Beginnings, but this one hit home even harder than the one at New Beginnings. Maybe I wasn't paying attention the first time. I don't know, but it was great. Thank you for sharing.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Go, Jeff. Anybody?
Yeah,
Thank you,
right on point, Johnny. Or it was can't argue with the thing. Everything was spot on. Our issue is the majority of the profession trying to latch onto this. And I put a post on New Beginnings today I knew the responses I was going to get from the people that responded, but it just shows the big disconnect of the principled versus the clueless. And, how we got off the rails like we did. And I think it was today on New Beginnings too. There was a video from Sigafus that talked about, it doesn't really matter what technique you use. It doesn't matter, your intention, your purpose for your being a chiropractor. I mean, the two people in the same neighborhood, one guy does the same technique as the other. One guy's getting miracles, the other guy's not. And it has nothing to do with the treating of anything, but allowing 100% of life to express through the matter that it has to work with and just exist to the fullest. And it's just so darn simple, but yet I don't understand why so many need to go find other things. It's just been a question that haunts me through the 40 years I've been doing this, and I'm sure you as well.
Wrong ladder. You know, we'll get on the wrong ladder. We keep climbing the wrong way, and we just get lost. You know, I'd like to recognize Randy Wachter over there. He's a PCC Palmer, Florida student currently.
Yeah, I got boots on the ground.
Joe, I think you wanted to say something.
I just wanted to thank John. You really hit home with that. It was so right to the point. And unfortunately, where our profession has gone wrong because we lost the original tonicity of everything, and that's where chiropractic is based. And I appreciate your insight, and I'm going to really review this video 150 times just to take some good notes from it because you really explained chiropractic so well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody who has iPhone, I see you guys, you're waving your hands there and everything else. So I just wanted to tell you to unmute if you want to ask anything.
Well, thank you for providing us with a deeper understanding on the topic of tone.
Thank you. Hey, Nene.
Dave, you want to say anything?
Yeah, actually, I was the guy I told Johnny I had a long weekend and a poor night's sleep, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it tonight. And I probably passed out halfway through, but you had me going the whole time, brother. It was amazing. Thank you.
Sorry you missed your nap. All
I'm
right.
proud of you, John. I'm proud of you. Thanks for sharing.
Hey, Nay.
Yeah, love you.
Hey, Nate. How you doing?
Hey, John.
All righty. Everybody, we got this one was in the bag. Our speaker.
Real quick, I just wanted to say before we head out, as I was studying for parts 2 and 3 for the boards last month, we had an Irene Gold, it's like a tutoring session company for the MBCE tests, and any student that would comment from another school other than Palmer they truly were lost during the philosophy portion of the tutoring session, which I found shocking because Palmer is still one of the more fundamental schools in the nation, apparently, that is teaching philosophy. Students from Life, Parker, Kaiser, Sherman, they didn't know what was going on while the tutor was going over the philosophy section, which was pretty telling.
Oh,
nice. Fun.
All right.
Yeah.
Alana, I saw you try to talk there. You want to say anything? Okay.
All right, guys.
All right. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thank you, John. See you in 2 weeks.
Our speaker in 2 weeks is
Thanks for listening.
Our speaker in 2 weeks is Dr. Brian Ferris.
Whoa.
And for
cool.
anybody based in New York, I'll share this with you. I basically stepped up as the ICA rep. So I'm going to have my call with Dr. Joe Betts tomorrow and take over the position in New York. So,
Way to go, John. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you, John.
have a great night,
Thanks.
everybody.
Johnny, great job
You too.
tonight, brother.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Good job, buddy.
Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.